And I'm calling Who's the Prophet for no reason. Green Skittles only.
Green Skittles only. I don't think I've heard that
Even
one
as like
before.
a person, just like listen to all his interviews. Like I laugh every single time. Dude is just funny.
Really nice guys.
I'm gonna get to the chase here with Jamar Chase. That's as advertised, where he'll be covering wide receivers to narrow ones.
Ooh, the grand reveal.
I like it. I like it.
It's tough. I like three guys here. Might surprise you on two of them. And next year, oh boy.
Darnell to the Mooney, I'm right there with you. As soon as A-Rob's out of town.
You know, when some people zig, you can zag and take the old guys and win now while they're building for the future that may never come. I want to get that checked out.
Drinks on Goddard.
Maybe not too many drinks from Goddard.
Welcome back to the Dynasty Wire. This is your host, Iowa. I'm here again with resident pick sniper, Henry Sinclair.
Thank you. Far too kind.
As hinted to in the previous episode, we have a special guest today here to help us with all the Elijahs and all the Moors. Who's the prophet?
Hey guys, man. I've been looking forward to this. You know, the last show was great. A lot of fun. You know, it's always cool talking Dynasty, the deeper guys that you don't really get to ever touch in redraft.
Heck yeah. This week, we're going to be touching on some of the top guys and the sleeper guys later. I know you love them. I know you listen to the shows too. In the last few weeks, we've been looking forward to 2022 and beyond for quarterbacks and then for running backs. Picking out QBs who are worth more next year. Guys you might want to be targeting if you're rebuilding. The current rookie QBs, Jordan Love. Identifying guys with risk of being replaced like Hurts or Tua. Illuminating guys who will be rising in value next year potentially like Akers, Gibson, Dobbins, Javonte Williams, and exposing RBs who might be declining in value in the near future, like Kamara, Cook, Henry, and Aaron Jones.
Right.
Today, we're going to hit up the wide receivers. I know they're some of your favorite.
Oh, yeah. Love the wide receivers. Those are the guys that's going to be out there getting the, 130 targets, catching the balls in PPR leagues. That's what you want. We're going to get to those guys that are on the, third on the depth chart that, that might emerge next year. Yeah, this is fun. I'm excited to get into it.
You brought up a good point there that this is going to be PPR as well. I know Henry has a few guys he likes a little bit more than me, probably.
Yeah, I also play in a little more half PPR leagues than you, but hopefully we'll discuss some ranking discrepancies and, explain why.
Yeah, my half PPR leagues are my leagues that are more than a couple years old. And most of my recent ones have been PPR and Superflex. But here for the wide receivers, we'll be touching on what is the top 24 in a consensus style ranking. And it'll go through each of us. And then for the next pick, we will consensus decide who it is. I'll ask you guys, you'll debate it out. And if you guys aren't in agreement, I will break the tie and move us along there. One of the guys we're going to get to, and I just want to touch on it before we get rolling into this mock here, would be Ridley, someone who would have been a top 24 guy coming into this season, potentially here in the future, stepping away with the mental health issues. And I know Sleeper Wire supports charity, and mental health is one of those things. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. That's a big focus, primary focus now. It used to be chronic Lyme disease. We had a huge cause. Our buddy Rob still, unfortunately, is dealing with chronic Lyme disease. Try to help him as much as we can and get him, some help, able to help him in, some areas. But unfortunately, that's such a debilitating disease that just kind of comes back at you. And it's really an expensive one as well. But mental health, man, it's something that we all deal with, right? If you're saying that you don't, you're just ignoring it. It's something that we all literally deal with, mental health. And I'm glad that everyone is starting to talk about it, more and more, because it's something that was a stigma for a long time.
Absolutely. I really was curious, if you don't mind telling me, is there anything that you do specifically that you do to maintain your mental health or to bounce back after experiencing loss?
I try to do a lot of reflecting of gratitude. I try to think about what's given versus what I no longer have, what I was given at the time. We're given relationships that we love and we never want to let go, but it's possible that we were never able to get those relationships. So being grateful for the moments when you have loss and trying to be, in those good moments, and obviously it's easier said than done when it happens initially. But as it gets on, it's easier to do.
Yep, that's deep, man. When you lose something, it reminds you to be appreciative of the things you still have, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything there, Henry, that you do to maintain your mental health?
I mean, every day, in the gym, I like to just kind of think of something that frustrates me and let it out in a productive and healthy way, for sure. There's ways you can make it productive, meet new people at the gym, make friendships, talk to people about what's happened in their life, bouncing things off each other, meeting new people, and then, meditation and the sauna, or, just kind of clearing your head or whatever daily helps. Like Who's was saying, not taking for granted those relationships that you have in life, with your parents or your grandparents or whatever. They're not going to live forever. You might be frustrated at them for something, but for the most part, they're looking out for your best interest. And I know that if I lost, my grandpa tomorrow, I'd really be grateful that I said, how much I love him and how much he meant to me. So.
Absolutely, man. Everyone experiences various tragedies in their life. Life is a roller coaster, a lot of ups and downs. Me personally, whenever I would experience loss or something that impacted me greatly, I found comfort in writing. It's like you got 1,000 thoughts going through your head. For me to put it down into a sentence and put it to words, often through music, that was my mental health, my notes to self, my clarity through ink. That's how I would cope with loss. And as far as maintaining mental health, you touched on it there. It's being appreciative of what you do have, not focusing on what you don't, and social activity for sure.
I will say, just focus on things that you love, things you enjoy. Can't help certain things coming our way, but you can certainly, if you have a favorite show that you like to watch, you can certainly binge it for a little bit. Maybe it cheers you up for a little bit, go out, take a run, listen to some tunes, listen to your favorite music from growing up, maybe get some good old nostalgia there.
There you go.
Talk to some buddies, go hang out with some buddies, play some games. It's all about keeping busy.
Yep. If you were to want to binge some audio or some video or some nostalgia, 32-bit is over there. Some items up there available for your perusal. And like you said there, focus on doing something you love. Mm-hmm. And something we all love here is fantasy football. And personally, it's ranking, drafting, and trading. These are like some of my favorite things. So today we are going to be mocking the wide receivers for 2022 and forward, as if we were drafting like 6 to 8 months from now. We'll try to bang out 24 here, and then we'll touch on the risers and fallers and tiers you might have after that. Get to the sweet late guys loved so much by you who's. I'm going to go ahead and start off the mock rank. It's going to go Claire, Who's, me, and then we're going to do the consensus and then continue in a linear fashion. So starting off with the 1.01 ranking of 2022 wide receivers for PPR in Dynasty. Claire.
Yeah, for me, he was my number one in the offseason, for sure. Here, there, the nice little twinkle of the draft. That's the greatness of sleeper right there. That's a great noise. Oh, yeah. The shot clock gets a little nerve-wracking, though, for sure.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, looking at the 101 here, in the offseason, it was probably, A.J. Brown or Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill for some, Devontae, some people might have been clamoring for. For me, it's going to be Justin Jefferson. He's 22.
Oh.
Adam Thielen's not going to play there forever. Even if he does, you can have two great wide receivers on the same team. Jefferson's the 1A. Cousins provides fantasy goodness for him. He's a perennial top 10 guy.
Yep, his touchdown to interception ratio is amazing, and he's still not exciting because it's still Kirk Cousins.
It's like Alex Smith back in the day. It was like you never wanted to play Alex Smith, but he was always there.
I like it. I want it myself. We talked about it on the last show. I'm going to go with my guy here, who I've been back and forth. I haven't really necessarily placed him officially, but I think I'm going to do it here on this show. So I'm going to go with my guy, A.J. Brown.
Ooh, the grand reveal.
Yeah, that is not who Iowa and I thought you were going to take pre-show. Pre-show, we were talking about it. We go number 1 and number 2 in Dynasty.
Chase.
Mm-hmm.
We thought you were going to go Chase for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Chase is currently there in my rankings. I try to go with my feelings and with my gut. And A.J. Brown is my gut. I just love it, everything about AJ Brown. I know he's 24, so he's not, as young as AJ. Sorry, as Chase. He's not as young as Jefferson. I wasn't able to get him, but AJ Brown, I think he's just a stud receiver. It reminds me of a lot of Julio Jones. He's playing with him now, learning new tricks from him or whatever from the legend. And I think he's just going to end the season, possibly as the wide receiver 1 on the back end, not obviously over the course of the season.
Henry going down.
Yeah. And next year, oh boy.
Yep. How I kind of draw the line is it's right about that 24 age, give or take a little bit, where they reach what is the beginning of their peak time to have them. And AJ Brown is right there. People get to chasing the young wide receivers because, they are amazing. They're so talented. But honestly, the production, sometimes it takes a year or two before you really start realizing the value from a fantasy sense, even though they are so awesome. I'm going to get to the chase here with Jamar Chase. That's definitely going to be what I have here at 3. I debate back and forth whether I want him at 1 overall, simply based on a continued narrative that we thought Chase was better than Jefferson back in the day. And, it's easy to get caught up in the excitement of the current NFL highlights, and he has current NFL production. But after this season, Chase will also have current NFL production and is younger and has been touted over Jefferson. So I think it's kind of a tier there that includes AJ Brown. I went into the season with AJ Brown as my wide receiver 1, so I'm totally there with you. Absolutely love AJ Brown, even as like a person. Just like listen to all his interviews. Like I laugh every single time. Dude is just funny. An extremely likable player for sure. Here with the 4th selection, we will have a consensus pick. So we have Jeff, Chase, AJ Brown, all off the board here, and we are here to the consensus. So who would you take here at 4?
At 4, I take CD.
Yeah, I think for me it'd be pretty easily CD Lamb as well. I'd probably prefer him over AJB personally. He's just slightly younger. He's in his 2nd NFL season. He's paired with Dak, and Amari's deal is super cuttable in a year or two. No dead money, $20 million per year. And then Gallup is probably gone after the season, so he's going to continue to be hyper-targeted by Dak in a high-flying, high-scoring offense there with Mike McCarthy. And Dak Prescott got that huge contract, so I got no problem with it being CD Lamb. Obviously, high draft capital, super great prospect coming out, and he's been sensational.
Yep, absolutely love CD Lamb here. That's who I would take. That's who I kind of was guessing I might get here at 3, but we'll go with Lamb here as the 4th one off of the board. And that brings us back to you.
Case for Lamb. I mean, Lamb could have been the 2nd pick over Chase there as well. It's certainly a case for him in the top 3. There's certainly some people listening right now. I'm like, what? CD's not in the top 3? But that's what happens when you throw a wrench in there like AJ Brown, which I think is, exactly what he is. He's a big wrench when he comes out there in your defense and wrecks you.
Yep. Honestly, I'm happy with any of these. What is my top 5 wide receivers? I'm curious who you take here, Claire.
Yeah, we were discussing a little bit before, and our rankings tend to be somewhat similar as a whole. We like those guys, younger than 24. AJ Brown's right on that precipice. Another guy, similar age to him, collegiate teammate from Ole Miss. Obviously, the famous picture of them both just looking absolutely jacked. DK Metcalf makes AJ Brown look small somehow. It's a hard thing to do. He's obviously paired with Russell Wilson there up in Seattle. Lockett's getting up there in age. He's clearly the one. He's virtually matchup proof. I mean, outside of Ramsey twice a year, it's really hard for anyone to kind of match him physically at, 6'4", 235 and just absolutely cut. And he runs like a 4.3 something. He's like Calvin Johnson-esque almost. You hate to even bring up that name, but he's one of the closest things we've seen to it.
Yep, faster, and he's still linked up with Wilson, who we expect to have several years left there. Pretty easy for me, sliding him in there top 5.
Yeah, he's such a monster. You wish he could just go out there and just dominate like he can every game. He obviously can't get all the targets. I'm going to go with my guy, Chris Godwin, who I think is going to be highly, he's gonna get the lump, the stretch out, they're gonna airlift, they're gonna pull it all out for this guy, they're gonna pull the strippers out, the big screen in every city that he goes. He's such a stud. he's unfortunately, with so many weapons there, I think he's only 25 years old, still just has breakout ability. I feel like this guy still has not breaking out to where he possibly could be. For me, it's Chris Godwin.
Yep, one top 5 season, and basically ever since I've been somewhat infatuated with him. He's probably going to be the most coveted free agent next year if Tampa doesn't find a way to bring him back as well. Evans is going to be back because they've given him the contract. I'm curious to see if Godwin returns.
Talking about most coveted free agents, I mean, Devontae Adams potentially going to be in that free agent pool of wide receivers as well. I think there's a couple other guys this offseason that are potential free agents, but he's definitely up there.
He's definitely the highest free agent available who will be past the apex of their career for sure. I think Godwin's right there. Could be pretty sweet for Godwin. As far as for me here, I know a lot of people would probably be liking Tyreek here. He is linked up with Mahomes. He is a rule breaker as far as like size and speed, and every time somebody is small and fast, they get comped to Tyreek Hill because he just defines what it is to be that. But when you make your money off of being fast and quick, if you take away fast and then he's just quick, I'm curious to see if he has a career that can extend out into his 30s, or if this is something where he kind of loses the burst and it kind of happens all at once there. But for me personally, even though it's going to be an uncertain QB situation for next year, I have and will continue to draft more of DJ Moore.
Oh, okay. DJ Moore.
That surprised you?
It did a little bit. Yeah.
Who would you take here with this next one?
I would take, obviously Tyreek, and Adams. Those are really nasty guys. But I still like Terry McLaurin having like a kind of like an off season or so season. He has a good game, and then he has a bad one, and a great game, and then a bad one, an okay one, and a great game. I think he's just a stud. He just does it all for you. You line him up everywhere, wherever you want, and I think he just gets it done. You give him a good quarterback, and another guy, I think, will just see fly.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a worse quarterback starting right now in the NFL than Taylor Heineke. I mean,
Right.
Seriously.
Not your favorite.
No, I mean, I always talk about the elongated, drawn-out motion. He was undrafted out of Old Dominion. I mean, you're playing college ball at Old Dominion anyways. You're not a high prospect. Doesn't do a ton to impress there. He's the backup of the XFL for the St. Louis Battlehawks to Jordan Ta'amu. He's shown out, and good for him. It's a great story. Really rooting for the guy. Honestly, it's been awesome for him. It's been Kurt Warner-esque, kind of the closest thing we've seen to it. But if McLaurin ever gets a great quarterback, or, an even above NFL average quarterback, it could be electric.
Yep, I definitely anticipate somebody else being there next year. Terry McLaurin's been dinged up off and on, but we thought Diami Brown might be a little something there. Nope, that hasn't happened. Curtis Samuel, he could be awesome. He was okay at the Panthers. Nope, he's been dealing with injuries as well. So
Even Logan Thomas, they've been dealing with injuries.
And then that's not even to mention Gibson, who isn't necessarily super involved in the passing game as of yet, at least. He's also dealing with injuries. And then Fitzpatrick probably isn't coming back this year. So it's been a wreck all the way around. Terry McLaurin, he's still been able to do some good things. So I definitely like Terry McLaurin there. Is that who you would take, Henry?
That is who I would say. He came out in that same class with Metcalf and A.J. Brown, who are both Metcalf's 23 right now, and I think A.J. Brown's 24. He's a little older. He's 26, I believe, currently. So that can kind of trick you into thinking he's one of the young guys. But he was awesome at Ohio State with Haskins. He's a big reason why people thought Haskins could be an NFL quarterback at him. Paris Campbell, who we're not going to get to today, KJ Hill, and some other just studs at Ohio State. So he's our 8th overall guy. And looking at our 9th overall guy, man, it is hard to pass up on a lot of these, vets. We kind of gone through a lot of those young guys. Like DJ Moore came out a year before McLaurin. He's, a year and a half, 2 years younger. We're starting to get into that range where you're either reaching on a guy who's young, relatively unproven, like, Devonta Smith or Judy or, Pittman or something like that. Or you're looking at, Tyreek Hill, Diggs. Diggs being what he is at 27. With Josh Allen.
Are you forgetting someone?
Who am I forgetting here?
Are you looking at it as the cup's half empty or half full?
Oh, yeah, Cup is, he's an interesting guy for sure. I think I'd prefer Diggs and maybe Reek still over Cup, but Cup has been sensational this year. We'll see how Robert Woods returns off the torn ACL. If you say he's hyper targeted in Los Angeles even more than he has been, then he'll be sensational. Man, Tyreek, he'll be 28 in March, so he's a little younger. He won't be 29 till after next year. But I think that Diggs will age slightly better. He's kind of got that route running archetype to him a little more. So I'm going to go Stephon Diggs. I think that pairing with Josh Allen, Emmanuel Sanders will likely be gone after next year. He's 34. And then it's just Diggs again. Just Diggs last year, and then they added Emmanuel Sanders, and next year it'll probably just be Diggs.
Well, Josh Allen isn't going anywhere, that's for sure.
Not with that contract, he's not.
No.
Well, I'm going to make it nice and easy for you here. Out of the guys that are left, Tyreek Hill, still paired with Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, he's 27. He's going to be 28 next year. He's still paired with Mahomes, and as we're taking guys that are just studs, I mean, these guys might even reach on even earlier. But if we're talking like a true dynasty here, you're talking about, you want the years out of these guys. And, fortunately, Tyreek is on the back end, and that's why he's here on the back end. 10, kind of rounding out. But yeah, Tyreek Hill.
Yep, I can dig it. A little later than you might have drafted at the beginning of the season. And someone who was going quite a bit higher than that. And someone who is skyrocketing ranks would be Cooper Kupp, has absolutely blown up with Stafford there. And you can think that even with OBJ there, not concerned, Woods done for season, obviously might kind of balance that out there as far as from Kupp's perspective. A couple weeks ago, he passed his previous year's fantasy point total. Just is awesome. Now, the downside, he's already 28, be 29 next year. But he's also one who isn't predicated on speed, but it's not even so much that he's just like this insane route runner. He's just hyper targeted, but he's going to have the quarterback that's hyper targeting him again next year. So at the very least, it's a 1-year guy who can help you win a league next year. I understand it's dynasty, you kind of want the years, but it's the point where you're weighing out, do I want a couple years of a back end 1, high end 2 maybe, and then some after that? Or do I want a top 5 wide receiver for 1 or 2 years?
And to be fair, though, he is Tyreek Hill. He will be 28 in March next year. So, I mean, he's 27 now. So, I mean, but still, you're getting the back end on him, and that's why he's here.
Yep. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and take Kupp as we roll into the consensus pick that will round out our top 12. Before I get who you guys want, just recap there. We have Justin Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Jamar Chase, and CeeDee Lamb as our top 4. And then Metcalf, Godwin, DJ Moore, and McLaurin as 5 through 8. And then Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Kupp. And here we are for the 12th pick overall in the 2022 wide receiver rank. Who do you want? Who's?
While we're, sticking with the guys that got us here throughout the years, and I know a lot of people would probably even pivot him even further. Davante Adams is going to be a free agent next year. Probably going to follow Rodgers wherever he goes if that team has the capital to do it. Davante Adams is still a stud. I call him kind of having a down year this year. He really only had like those 2 really great games for you. Week 3, 31 points, and week 5, he had 37. Aside from that, he's been good for you. He hasn't been stellar. He's been solid. But there's a lot of weapons now around him. Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard that he likes, MVS. These guys are soaking up more targets. Tunyon there. And he's still a stud, but he is 28. That's the reason why he's ending out right here at 12. So, Davante
turns 29 by the end of this season. And if somehow Rodgers stays with the Packers for another year and they extend Adams and he's there again, Lazard out this week, and then Aaron Jones is hurt, so it may not look super pretty for the rest of this year, but if somehow they were able to all stay there, I could totally understand seeing him being a wide receiver 1 next year. If he leaves, my favorite guess to where he might go would be to go back to his bunk buddy in Carr. Potentially, there's a couple spots where he could go and maybe have some more relevancy. Henry, you were talking about this the other day. How many wide receivers has Rodgers made amazing and then left the Packers and been nothing?
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about a guy that went from Green Bay to Las Vegas, Oakland at the time, Jordy Nelson. I mean, he went into dust. Gosh, Greg Jennings, he left, did not a lot. Cobb, in the few years that he left, was pretty much not, a ton. Makes you kind of wonder, Devontae, what would he be without Rodgers? You mentioned he's going to be 29 on Christmas Eve. And so next year, when we're doing this draft, he'll be 29 and a half. When this draft is projected to be, and it'll be his age 30 year, then you're kind of looking at 2 years max, really out of a guy after 30. It's like Larry Fitzgerald's the only guy you can be like. So the Tom Brady of wide receivers, that's not, normal. So for me, I'd probably be looking at Ridley, assuming he works through some things and comes back. He was a wide receiver 5 last year. Likely to still be with Matt Ryan for maybe one more year and then get, a highly drafted rookie in there or a free agent quarterback and just be an absolute, stud. And he's, 26 and a half right now. So you're buying maybe 3 years, but I get it. I mean, Devontae's a stud too.
It was a constant battle in the offseason whether you wanted Ridley or DJ Moore. They were often going really close to each other. We're not talking about the rest of this season, so whether he plays again this season or not has no bearing on exactly how we're ranking them here. I hope that he would be back. Projecting forward, making the assumption that he would be back, I'd have no problem taking Calvin Ridley here. I would still be sliding Devontae Adams down just a little bit, but no worry, he might make it back to you here.
Yeah, I mean, Devonta is not that old, right? He's only 6 months older than Kupp, who's already 28 and a half. But, any of these guys, really, it's like you're just trying to buy a year or two, right? If you're going into a draft and you see everyone taking these young guys, like last year, I took a ton of Zach Wilson in startups, Trevor Lawrence in the first rounds, young ETN even, who's now injured, or Akers. And you see these guys taking, the young, unproven guys that'll last a while. When some people zig, you can zag and take the old guys and win now while they're building for the future that may never come. Not a terrible option. DeAndre Hopkins, a name that has not been mentioned yet. He's already 29, so when we're drafted next year, he'll be 30. Probably a little even older than that, maybe 30 in a couple months. And then Keenan Allen's certainly not a spring chicken. Allen Robinson playing on the tag. You start getting down here to the young guys. And, Amari Cooper's right at that Mike Evans age, almost 27 and a half. He's probably out of Dallas at some point, or he's, sharing with CeeDee Lamb. I might take the, what do they even call him? The Slender Assassin, the Slim Reaper, I think it is. Devonta Smith. There was the size concern coming out. Come on, when was the last time you saw a wide receiver win the Heisman? You can be, Desmond Howard, I think it was, out of Michigan. Yeah, but he was kind of a kick returner, and he won it because he had explosive plays in the, championship game, and he was thin too, and you're like, man, size, you need bigger size at the NFL level. Back in the day, you could jam a receiver at the line, right? You could manhandle them. Now it's like you lay a finger on a wide receiver and flags are getting thrown. So Smith isn't getting roughed up like back in the day when you used to be able to kill people. If he can run routes and tiptoe his way around and get open, he's awesome. We've seen it the last couple weeks here, with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, 20-plus point performances. I think Jalen Hurts, is not the most fantasy wide receiver-friendly quarterback because he has lower passing volume, and Devonta Smith is still a stud. So give him maybe a more prototypical quarterback in the future, and he could rise up these ranks.
I like it. As advertised, we'll be covering wide receivers to narrow ones, and there you go. Back to you, who I think we know who you're taking here, your boy.
Yeah, just have to put some respect on, my guy's name, so just staying true to everything I said earlier about Devontae Adams.
This is a tough pick for me because it's kind of a little bit bigger tier. Tossing it up between like Deontay Johnson, Debo, Amari, and then down into like the younger guys like Judy and Claypool and Pittman.
But Higgins near that tier, or is he falling off a little bit?
It would be the very next one if I were to continue going down the list there. Still young, draft capital. I love Chase, and he would have to be behind Chase somewhat. He's still been productive even with Chase there. They throw the ball a lot, so it makes sense to me there. But Deontay Johnson done it a little longer, though his QB situation is much more unclear than the Bengals looks next year. Debo has hopefully maybe Lance by next year, but has been doing really well with Garoppolo, who has also been doing really well. Amari Cooper, Gallup's going to be out of town. So it could be just Amari Cooper and Lamb there with Dak. Jerry Jeudy. They just signed a big old Patrick extension. Whatever quarterback ends up there, everybody's going to get Rodgers. Broncos, the Steelers, everybody's going to get Rodgers. But if he went there, we'd love Jeudy too. For argument's sake, I'm going to go ahead and ride away on my bike with Debo.
Yeah, the wide receiver 3 this year. Obviously that Jones fracture, and he missed quite a few games off and on because he plays very physical, right? We saw him last week get used as a running back a lot, and he's one of the most willing blockers you'll see at receiver. Niners run that smash mouth football. He's going to run out there like he doesn't care. He's going to throw caution to the wind and just throws body and block people, and that leads to some injuries. Kind of what we see with Kittle, right? All Niners players get banged up because they all play crazy. So if he can stay healthy and wide receiver 3, that could be a steal. 25 was in that same class with McLaurin, DK Metcalf, and AJ Brown, an amazing receiver class. So
yep, if Metcalf is the 1.01 of jacked wide receivers, Debo has to be up there as far as cool names. Consensus rank here. I'll start with Henry this time. Who do you think should go here?
A name we haven't thrown out there yet is Jalen Waddle. He was, a top 5 or maybe number 6 in the draft to Miami. He's the wide receiver 24 so far this year. He had a slow start to the year, I believe. In his first 5 games, only had 2 over 10 points, and then he explodes, with 29 and a couple more 10-point games. Next year, Will Fuller hasn't really been there this year, but he was on a 1-year deal, so he'll likely be gone. Devontae Parker, I don't think has a big-time contract there. It's not long for Miami, a ton more. Gesicki's on his 4th year of his rookie deal, and potentially, getting a better quarterback situation than Brissett or Tua, or hopefully, Tua develops. Jalen Waddle, to me, with the draft capital and what he's really shown to be more than a speedster, deserves mentioning. I don't know that I could justify taking him over Jerry Jeudy with what I've seen from Jerry Jeudy, but he's had the injuries, so I guess it'd be Waddle just because of health.
Who you got, Who's?
It's tough. I like 3 guys here. Might surprise you on 2 of them. I definitely like Higgins still. Mm-hmm. I think Boyd's going to go away, and then you're just going to have Higgins and Chase. And a lot of people are going to chase. Higgins will be a nice value. I also like Michael Pittman. Mm-hmm. He's number 8 wide receiver in the PPR right now. He's just been having monster games and just really a lot of steady other ones. Other than week 1 against Seattle, where he just only had 5 points, but and then against week 6, he only had like 5.8. But yeah, he's really been a stud for you. And he's 24 years old, 6'4". He's got some size, 223. He's in his 2nd year. I think he's got eyeballs on him for the 3rd year breakout. He's breaking out right now, obviously. But I think he's got another gear in him to be even better. So for me, it'd be Pittman.
I'm going to agree with you there. We were talking before we kicked off here. We thought Pittman could be okay. He was, the 2nd pick in the 2nd round. So he was almost a 1st-round pick. They picked him over Jonathan Taylor. Mm-hmm. So obviously we knew they loved this guy. Wentz has been adequate and probably even better than expected by probably consensus. We thought maybe, Michael Pittman overcomes T.Y. by the end of the year. No, T.Y. made that decision super easy by putting himself on IR repeatedly, so it's just been Pittman. Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you as far as liking Pittman starting 2022 and beyond.
Yeah, definitely get it. I have been, tagged as a Carson Wentz apologist the last couple of years here, and I just believe in the talent that is Carson Wentz. In that draft, I definitely thought it was a mistake to go Goff over Wentz as a St. Louis Rams fan back in the day. Wentz had that foot problem, that seemed like it was all the way back in high school, kind of lingering. And week 1, he sprained both his ankles, or maybe that was week 2 against Donald. But either way, he couldn't play in that final part of the Rams game, and he's been battling through it all year. And so maybe Wentz can get even better and provide better looks for Pittman. It's not necessarily like Zach Pascal or Paris Campbell's not coming off IR anytime soon. So maybe they add someone in the offseason, but Pittman to me has that prototypical size you really look for in an X receiver. And Wentz has a history of throwing to big guys, and Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert back in Philly. It's something to do with him being 6'5". He has that high motion where he throws over the top, and he likes to play above the rim in the red zone.
Yep. Some of the knock with sliding him behind a lot of the year 2 wide receivers is, he was a second round pick. But part of the trap with looking at draft capital is knowing the quantity of players at that position who are first round caliber talent. Obviously, somebody's getting pushed into the second round. Same thing with like the running backs last year. There were a bunch of good running backs, so there was a greater supply, so you didn't have to prioritize it as highly. If Jonathan Taylor was in the class before, he would have been a first rounder.
Well, he should have been over Clyde, and most people's eyes, anyways, with what he performed in college. It was like, I get it, Wisconsin's got a great offensive line, but he's still running against the Big Ten defenses, and that's no joke. And he had the most rushing yards through the first year of being a college player, first 2 years, first 3 years. Guy was an animal. It's like, how do you not take this guy and think and he runs that 40 time at 5'10", 225 or whatever he is. I mean, that big and that strong. He's like Saquon-esque, and you're going to let Saquon fall another round? He said it, this is not all second round picks are created equal. Pittman, almost a first rounder. Denzel Mims was a second rounder in that class too, but 20.
Yeah, we see how that turned out.
25 picks later or whatever. It's like, that's almost a complete round apart. That's farther than Ayuk and Pittman were apart. So.
And the other thing about Michael Pittman, I mean, the Colts always have a wide receiver one, always. Yeah, as long as they have a healthy one. T.Y. was one for years until he became like a wide receiver 2, like a high-end wide receiver 2, but he was a wide receiver 1 for a long time. And then before that, they had Andre Johnson.
And Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne even for the Colts. Yeah.
They always have them. They always have them, and now they got another one. So I think this guy's... You could confidently feel like this guy's going to be pretty much in your top 12. I could have taken him over Adams, but like I said, I wanted to put some respect on Adams' name. That I think he still can go out there, be a top 12 guy. But Michael Pittman, wow, yeah, he's such a stud.
Very nice. And to recap what's happened here in the background with, the 17th selection overall, Henry selects Waddle with the 18th selection. Hoos selects Higgins. And then I selected Jerry Jeudy. Any thoughts there?
A bunch of young guys still. We're looking at a Ricky and Waddle. I think he is the number 1 target in Miami. He doesn't necessarily prototype as that guy. But you say it, anytime you see someone 5'10", 185 with that speed, you have Tyreek Hill. He's not necessarily Tyreek in the twitchiness, but saw some plays on Thursday night against the Ravens where he showed more than just straight line speed. He showed he could get separation, have reliable hands. There's a reason he's a top 5 pick. He had that weird gator roll tackle in college, that weird injury. Didn't necessarily get to see a bunch of it in college, but obviously they believe in him. And then Higgins, like you said, with Jamar Chase there, could become a Thielen Diggs, Jefferson and Diggs type situation with Joe Burrow. Could definitely supply 2 of them when Boyd leaves. And then Jeudy, stud. They extend Patrick, which is almost better because Sutton probably a little better than Patrick. And now that Sutton's going to be gone, instead of Patrick being gone, maybe it means Jeudy gets more hyper-targeted.
Yep. I like what you said about Waddle because the comp was Tyreek Hill, like every fast, bursty wide receiver. In all reality, he might be one of the next best things as far as that style.
Yeah, it might be more Diggs than Tyreek in the sense of he's got the speed, but he can also kind of get open. And Hill's developed that way too, right? Hill's not just a straight liner like Deshaun Jackson. But so we're looking at the consensus pick here at pick 20, is it?
Correct.
Who you got, Who's?
I think we all talked about him. Well, you guys certainly did. I don't know if I got a chance to talk about him. I'm going to hint some more about him. If anybody's seen me talk about him on Twitter, I call him After Death. I call him AD After Death. After death of AB leaving the Steelers. It's Deontay Johnson, DJ. I call him AD, though, After Death. I think it's such a cool name. I wish it would trend, but nobody's going to call him AD. But I'm going to call him here AD After Death of Antonio Brown, the stud Antonio Brown of the Pittsburgh Steelers, replaced by Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson just... he's gonna be hyper targeted. He's a stud. I think he's gonna be a stud on the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if he goes anywhere else, he'll be a stud anywhere else. They're good at picking these great high end guys. And I think they found one with him. Before their AB, they had Michael Thomas, and now they got Deontay Johnson. They had other guys that seemed like they could be the guy. Big believer in Deontay Johnson. I know he doesn't have as high as he doesn't have the highest draft capital. I think the guy's the stud. And here. I think he's a great pick.
Yep, I think 2021 AD, we're going to go ahead and stamp it there. Cursed to death last year for the drop, says Deontay Drop Johnson.
Dropson.
Yep. This year it's Deontay No Drop Johnson, showing that that's not necessarily something sticky that you can say, okay, this carries over year to year. I'm there with you that there's a Steeler wide receiver that is likely going to be the bomb, and I like Deontay Johnson. I think no matter who they put there, they're going to hyper-target him. I think he's kind of proven that he's earned this volume of targets, even though it is noodle-armed Roethlisberger, pummeling him with not necessarily targets that go all the way down the field.
They'll draft a guy next year.
Yep. There's definitely a looming QB upgrade.
Definitely not hard to upgrade over Mason Rudolph in that disgusting tie last week. I mean, that game was excruciating to watch. Dude, the worst score, man. Jared Goff with the torn oblique. I'm with you. Steelers wide receiver. I prefer the guy who's 6'4", 240 and ran the 4.42 or whatever, 4.38 was it at the combine? I mean, Mapletron, if he can stay healthy.
Chase
Claypool, second round pick last year. He's 2 years younger than Deontay.
Yeah.
I get the Deontay love. He's certainly talented. Certainly has produced more than Claypool this year and in previous years even. But I think in Dynasty, I'd like Claypool a little more.
I like him. He just feels like a blip a little bit more, just because we haven't seen it as much. We wanted to, but I mean, he just hasn't done it for you. He gave you one good game against Cincinnati. Other than that, he's pretty much unstartable. Yep,
I have a hard time deciding which Steelers wide receiver I like better, so of course you guys each select a different Steelers wide receiver for this selection here. I love the chase. That also applies to Claypool. So I'm going to go ahead and break the tie there with Claypool and send it back to you, Henry.
Oh man, well that makes my pick more difficult, and maybe his next pick a little easier. So
yeah, easier.
Preseason this pick would have been pretty easy. Brandon Ayuk, he was right there with DJ Moore, right near that Ridley tier preseason. He seemed to have fallen out of favor there. First couple weeks it was like Trent Sherfield was playing over him. Now he's finally getting back up there to like 90% of snaps. Last couple weeks here he's been producing okay fantasy numbers. First round capital. He's young. But man, it's hard to really trust him being fully out of the doghouse. Taking him over a proven commodity, kind of like an Amari Cooper, Mike Evans, man, the name of the game of Dynasty is age.
Right.
But man, I guess it'll be Brandon Ayuk for me here. Just hope that he's finally out of his slump and that he can become the 1A or 1B with Debo. Obviously, Debo, the injury concerns. Last year, Debo missed a lot of the year, and Ayuk, succeeded in his stead. Hopefully they can coexist together with Trey Lance. Trey Lance may be able to stretch the field a little more. Maybe that'll fit Ayuk's play a little better than Garoppolo with the shallow depth of target.
Yep, so Ayuk there, super disappointing for especially the first part of the season, though he has been coming on a little bit as of late, and it's not like he's old and these are his last twilight years being wasted. Still a young guy. Who knows with Shanahan? I don't have a problem with that. I like Deontay No Drops Johnson now. Great pick there. And then it's back to me here. And with Amari Cooper, it's always something with a little injury thing, though he is good when he's out there. I do love Liam a lot, but I think Amari Cooper can do well at the same time there. As you have said a couple times here, age is the name of the game, and I have loved all the way pre-draft process to now to being injured to beginning the season and getting off everyone's love list. It's Rashad the Batman for sure there.
Okay. I like it. I had him queued for the later round. But I'm not mad at it there.
It's going to be something where some people kind of shake their head because DeAndre Hopkins is still out there, Keenan Allen's still out there, Amari Cooper's still out there, Mike Evans still out there.
But the savvy guys know that those, like, you enjoy those guys for maybe a few games before they get injured.
Not only that, everyone there listed was 28 or older.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, we're talking about, this draft really meaning next off season. This is kind of what a startup might look like next off season.
Right, exactly.
So all these guys are going to be a year older, and you're looking at Mike Evans right now, and he's 28, and then you're looking at him next August, and he's 29, and you're like, man, I maybe got 2 more years of Mike Evans. How long is Brady going to play? what happens with Mike Evans once he's 30? Is he going to go the way of Vincent Jackson? Rest in peace, obviously, there. But, is he going to go the way of other tall receivers that aren't necessarily the fastest? I just thought of him because he's on the Bucks. But, it's always a question once you hit that threshold. We see it with D-Hop right now. He's always dealing with a hamstring, kind of like Julio at age 32. Once you start hitting that, AJ Green, that age, you get a lower body injury. Those things don't go away.
Yep, and Bateman is picking him over Marquise Brown, who has been a surprise awesome so far this year, though, just now it's like, a little thigh injury, Bateman getting back into the swing of things, and Bateman's quietly had a great start on a per-game average to his career. I think that changing of the guard there is coming sooner than later for sure.
Do you think they have a higher passing volume this year? We see Marquise Brown with, 10-plus targets in 5 games already this year out of only 9 games they played. You think that's in large part due to Dobbins and Edwards being missing and them not being able to really lean on Devonta Freeman and Lev Bell and, Latavius Murray to handle the ball like Dobbins and Edwards could?
Lamar has always been one that still kind of threw some touchdowns, even if he didn't throw for a ton of yards. And obviously, when you take a star off of your offense, it's going to change things. And I can totally see an argument say, hey, maybe these wide receivers are getting a few more opportunities than they might have had they been a more balanced attack with like a Dobbins out there. But they're still running the ball, even if it's just not as efficiently as they might have with Dobbins there. And even Marquise Brown, first-round draft capital guy, is just... He's Devontae Smith build. As far as if he has a Deshaun Jackson career, that'd be great, but that's kind of boom or busty. And with Bateman coming back, being more of that possession style receiver that runs great routes over the middle of the field where Lamar loves to throw to Andrews and now Bateman, maybe Marquise Brown becomes a little bit more hit or miss as the other wide receivers work their way in there. It's like, I think Bateman was basically made in a lab for Lamar. It's like what Lamar loves throwing to is what he loves running. So it's not even potentially, it's eventually with Bateman.
Eventually, I mean, we're seeing it now. I mean, like, you got to love it. Everything you're saying, we're definitely starting to see glimpses of now. So I love that pick.
So here, what we're going to round out what'll be our top 24 here, and then we'll kind of talk about what these next tiers might be and any sleeper guys you have here. For the 24th pick in our 2022 wide receiver rank, who would you prefer, whose?
This is tough here. There's a lot of guys I like. I think I'm going to go with, might be a little bit of eye race, but I'm going to go with his teammate, Hollywood. I'm going to go with Hollywood. I think he's shown that connection, that chemistry, even while Bateman's out there, he's still out there doing, and I think some people thought that he was going to go away after Bateman, came back. But I mean, look at last week, they both went out there and produced. Bateman had about 14, I believe, in like a PPR, and Marquise had 19. Lamar's set up. He's really set up. He's got nice pieces, all under 24. Marquise will be 25 next year, though. Well, he's 24 now. But yeah, he's having his third-year breakout season, I think. And next year, I think he can continue it on. There's a lot of other guys I like there, but I feel like he's earned it after this season. You like the guys that have amazing quarterbacks, and Lamar's one of them.
And with age being the name of the game, there's a lot of older guys there who could be like wide receiver ones. Well, Marquise Brown has been a wide receiver one, and he's significantly younger than all these other guys in this next tier for me. So I don't hate it, though. Picking him right after Bateman would kind of be hedging on Bateman a little bit. But at the same time, I don't hate it at all because you're investing in a younger asset for sure. How about you, Henry?
Speaking of guys tied to awesome quarterbacks, about this mini breakout here by Elijah Moore. Last 4 weeks, over 10 fantasy points. I think he was the wide receiver number 1 2 weeks ago, or top 3 guy. And he's been doing it with that sensational Mike White game against Cincy, and then the not so great Mike White game against Buffalo. Elijah Moore, he's 21. Not got the prototypical size, 5'10", 180. That's like Deontay Johnson size, right?
I mean, look at Tyreek, right?
I think he can play inside. He can play outside if need be. That's kind of that West Coast scheme. Mike LaFleur's running it there in New York as their offensive coordinator. You could potentially see him fill that like Cobb role or the Ayuk role almost of the slot guy, kind of comes across the middle, catches stuff, and then occasionally gets his looks down the field. All they got outside of him is really Corey Davis, and he signed that big money contract, but it's Corey Davis. Despite being a top 5 pick or whatever Corey Davis was back in the day, he's not going to be a number 1 for very long. So, yeah, Elijah Moore or, I think Amari Cooper and Mike Evans would probably be right around that value where
yeah, that's fair.
You're banking on a Jets wide receiver versus, potentially a future Hall of Famer in either one of those guys.
Elijah Moore, he's definitely going to be higher on my ranks than probably what some people would have him. It's a tough decision whether you want to go with the old guys who have a couple years left of probably really good production or whether you want to go with the younger guys who might not be as good in the near future but are going to be good for the longer term. The one that kind of like sits in the middle there for me is Cortland Sutton. If he landed somewhere cool all the way back from his injury, I know he hasn't been super awesome as far as this year. I think that's something that could improve with time there. Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, DeAndre Hopkins, Amari Cooper, all older than him there. I do like Amari Cooper, probably ranked about top there, but I'm going to say that you said Elijah Moore, and then I'm going to go ahead and take Marquise Brown. And that way I'm fair to all participants. And I like him too.
He was the same class as N'Keal Harry, I think. He was a first-round pick that same year of N'Keal, and definitely the better of the 2 first-rounders. He's a top 10 guy, and a lot of off-season discussions about, Teelan Wallace and Rashad Bateman coming into Baltimore with one of our buddies. He was saying, Marquise is not going to see 100 targets this year like he did last. Well, he's almost already over 100 targets, and he's doing a lot more with them. He's certainly proven to be an excellent NFL wide receiver, and he's making fantasy impact all over the place.
Gotcha. So now that we've finished out our top 24, quick recap of what these last couple picks were here. To 21, we had Ayuk, 22, Deontay Johnson, 23, Rashad Bateman, and then lastly here, Marquise Brown, top 24, leaving off some big names. Mm-hmm. But I think they would be the big names that would be coming up basically immediately following these picks. But a couple of these guys here, Cortland Sutton, DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans, maybe even like Allen Robinson. Is Allen Robinson the ugly duckling of that group?
I think he's pretty. I think he's a pretty girl. I mean, in free agency, I think he should be. A couple of sexy guys, or sexy girls, depending on how you. It's electric Kadarius Toney, who, you probably wouldn't be taking him this early, but I had him in queue. Elijah Moore, definitely, who I would have taken, and then Rondale Moore, the other Moore, is a guy who definitely honorable mentions.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to throw Laviska Shenault's name out there with Chark, getting injured this year. Chark, to me, closer to that Sutton tier. I'm not quite as high on Sutton as you are, but he's definitely an option there in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. I think another year in that system will be good for both of them. A name farther down the list that I actually like quite a bit is Darnell Mooney. He's been, top.
I like that.
He's the wide receiver 36 right now, which, doesn't sound great when you say it like that, but he's had, a couple of blow-up weeks. Justin Fields, again, a quarterback that you expect to get better with time. Obviously, Allen Robinson likely to leave after the season. They'll presumably draft someone and maybe sign someone in free agency, but for, a 5th-round pick out of Tulane, he had that 4.38 speed. Same class as Denzel Mims. They both had that 4.38 speed, and looks like Mooney's going to be the better of those two for sure.
I like that call a lot.
I like what you said about A-Rob, pretty girl. It's that pretty girl that hit, she was hot for quite a while, but then this last year was really rough on Allen Robinson, but still has potential to bounce back, hit the gym, get looking good again. It's a possibility, but probably going to have to move to a new town to do so. Find a new crowd that loves him a little bit more than what Nagy maybe might like him. Whatever the case is, Darnell to the Mooney, I'm right there with you. As soon as A-Rob's out of town, definitely has potential to blow up. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in someone else if they let A-Rob walk, but still, Darnell Mooney, just now 24. He'll be nicely paired there with Fields as Fields is progressing. And like you said there, he's 36 on the year. Well, Fields hasn't even looked very good until like the last couple weeks. And even then, it's going to be a quarterback that throws and runs too. So temperate expectations for the current, but, optimism for the future. Absolutely. There as well. Kadarius Toney, Rondale Moore, definitely like both of them. Laviska Shenault, I like him up there towards the top. A couple you hadn't mentioned there, Michael Gallup, free agent.
Oh, yeah, good one.
Could land in a really sweet spot, still in that peak age range. Juju Smith-Schuster getting recruited by the Chiefs in the offseason, decided to go back to Pitt. Might be money involved as far as getting paid next year. Ended up on IR, so hopefully his plan still works out, that he gets what he was looking for there, but he could have a improved situation here in the near future. Mike Williams has been blowing up so far this year. Keenan Allen, we were talking about guys that are 28 or older. He's getting older there. Mike Williams, also 27 though. So
speaking of Chargers receivers and a younger one, if I could jump in,
go.
Josh Palmer.
Yep.
Josh Palmer. He's a guy who we had Gilbert Manzano on beat from 32 bit. Another plug there. From Dave Kluge, the host there. And he gave us a nice little dynasty nugget. He said, I like what he said about Josh Palmer, kind of, as I was saying earlier on the show, is you like those guys that follows the quarterback around and just does whatever, staying after the game. He's that guy. He's Gilbert said, he stays after the game and he's catching balls, with Herbert right after the game as they're just chatting and, they're hanging out. So that's good to hear. They're probably going to let him go. Sorry, not him go. Mike Williams. I mean, we've seen him have these big games, but we also seen him kind of tail off. So, I mean, do they really want to spend money on what they've kind of been seeing all year? This was kind of a contract year. Well, not kind of. It was a contract year for him. And somebody's probably going to overpay him more than the Chargers want to. But, I mean, they're probably going to want to see more of what Josh Palmer can do on the field this season. They're still tied into seeing what Mike Williams could do. So Josh Palmer, as a guy next season, I think you can kind of look for. He's a third round guy, but he's tied to obviously an elite quarterback. So.
Yep, I haven't really had, as I said before, a rosy outlook for Palmer there, but he does have third-round draft capital. He wasn't playing a whole lot at the beginning of the season, but it wasn't like Des Fitzpatrick where he was relegated to the freaking practice squad. I think last week he had a few more targets, probably his season high in targets there. Maybe something that's come along nicely there. I like the plug with 32-bit. People talking about how he's staying after. Yep, another interesting sleeper guy down there. One more guy who we hadn't mentioned yet, and I know is one of your favorite here, is Terrace Marshall.
Oh yeah, Terrace Marshall. Yeah, I wanted to sneak in Terrace Marshall. Whether it's Cam next year, or they bring in a guy, they're probably gonna draft a guy, or try to. But I mean, they've been winning games. They have Cam now. He's motivated to try to win games. I don't know what kind of draft pick they're gonna be looking at to get a guy. But yeah, I mean, Terrace Marshall, yeah, love the guy. Still, I've gone out there and even acquired more shares of him. So, as much shares as I had before, I've just went out and just acquired so much more. So, yeah, I love Terrace Marshall.
He's one of those guys who has a drastically different value in redraft versus dynasty. Not doing a whole lot this year, but a second round pick could be pretty sweet in the near future, especially if you could get a decent quarterback. Any other kind of those mid-range stash guys there for you, Henry?
Man, maybe Mecole Hardman just in the long haul, like eventually. Man, yeah, you're looking down this list like Amari Rodgers if Devontae Adams leaves town, like just a name at this point. Diami Brown, a guy I believed in. He's had a plethora of injuries this year, though. And these are all quite far down here, guys. Goodness, there is one more guy. I like Tyler Lockett still, but he's definitely getting along in the tooth.
Yeah, he's getting up there too. Yeah, he's right up there with the group of the guys that we didn't mention, like Voldemort on this show. I feel like we didn't talk about any of the guys over.
Like Galladay.
Yep, we shall not talk about Thielen over 30.
No, definitely not.
We barely talked about Hopkins. We barely talked about.
I mean, Juju. Yeah, we talked about Juju.
Well, Juju's 24, 25. He'll be 25 next year, so he's still a younger guy.
Robbie Anderson, what a disappointment this year. Rager, do not draft Jalen Rager. If you're ever thinking about draft Jalen Rager or this guy, don't draft Jalen Rager.
Oh man, what a disappointment.
Yeah, he was going right near Darnell Mooney in a lot of startups last year, and man, you'd be really a lot happier and I think better off with Darnell Mooney than you are with Jalen Rager.
it's possible the Eagles make it like 4 years in a row that they take a wide receiver in the first round because they might have several picks.
Yep.
So it could happen. Could be 4 years in a row.
I think they've got some other needs, but man, yeah, they really have not fixed wide receiver outside of Devonta. He looks awesome. Then Galley, I mean, we got Fulgham there last year, not there anymore. Greg Ward, an undrafted quarterback from Rutgers back in the day. He's not really solving any problems for you. Rager, obviously. Quez Watkins and John Hightower, Arthega-Whiteside. Yeah, I mean.
They extended your boy there.
Arthega-Whiteside, or who'd they extend?
Goddard.
Yeah, that's right. He got the bag today. Yeah, it was Andrews got the bag earlier this year, and I was
drinks on Goddard.
Yeah, facts. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't get his jaw broken at a bar again. That'd be unfortunate, but
yeah, that would be.
Maybe not too many drinks from Goddard.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe stay out of bars.
Yeah, when Goosicki's gonna get that extension because he was that same class with Goddard and Andrews, and he's an extension, second round pick out of Penn State back in the day. Athletic profile off the charts. Something in that Penn State water that year with Barkley too. Might want to get that checked out.
Oh, that's gonna be a fun tight end show, huh?
Yeah, definitely could be a fun tight end show.
Well, that's what we have to look forward to here. I hope that with this discussion here and how we debate the picks and ranking them, it's a lot of projection, it's a lot of guessing, but there's the information packed in between there that might help you as you are approaching your trade deadline in the very near future, depending on when your Dynasty League has it there, where, you want to make moves, but you don't want to totally, get hosed in the future, or you want to make moves that, are even now where they look even better for you a year from now. Hopefully this can illuminate some of those opportunities for you this episode for wide receivers. Next episode, we might dig a little deeper there with the tight ends. Who's, super awesome guest. Every time I hear you, all these different shows, all these different places, super awesome guest.
Thank you.
Super awesome person, super awesome boss.
Oh man, thank you for having me. So much fun being here. Shit, I want to come back for the tight end show. Tight end show now. Yeah, it's a joy listening to you guys every week. You guys are great, and yeah, it's my pleasure. It's my joy being able to listen to you guys and watch you guys grow. And just see the future and where you guys gonna be. And I'm calling Who's the Prophet for no reason. It's not just players. It's not just players. It's people too. So you guys are stars, and we're all gonna get there. It's beautiful to see and beautiful to hear. So.
There it is. There's the prophecy. Take it to the bank. Henry, thank you once again. You weren't sniping me so much. I made sure you were on the opposite end of the draft.
Yeah, kind of echo that sentiment that Who's was saying right there. It's always a pleasure. It's always a total joy to just get on and talk about something that you're really passionate about, and try to impart some sort of wisdom, like some actionable advice that maybe if you're a team that's not so much win now and you're like, man, why didn't they draft DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Allen Robinson today? If you're a team that's not so win now right now, you got a 2-8 record or whatever, you got one of those guys, you're like, man, they drafted this Rashad Bateman guy. They're talking about this Elijah Moore guy. Maybe you can go out and trade Mike Evans for one of those guys. And next year you'll be like, man, I'm really glad I went out on a limb and got him in like a late round pick or something in addition, and I'm really glad I did. So
I remember the year I got clowned for trading Antonio Brown for Calvin Ridley in a second.
See, exactly. If you can do that, take a guy that's a top 10 guy right now. Probably can't do it with Thielen because people see that 31 and they're like, he's old. But if you can do it with a 28, 29-year-old where people are like, he's still got a number of years left, that number of years is not that many years. So
yeah, you got to do it before they still have to have something left in their tank.
Yep.
You can't hold on to these guys and then try to trade them and get max value when they're on the back end. You gotta, like you're trading. You traded Hopkins last year, not this year. You traded Devontae last year, not this year.
Michael Thomas. I mean, goodness, if you traded him coming off that wide receiver 1 year, you could have capitalized.
And that's what you do with these guys. They get past 27. You're getting it out of if you traded. I've already traded away Keenan Allen in so many leagues and I traded back for him for cheap. And now I'm trading him again because he's having a great season. So it's just like, it's values. It's values.
Absolutely.
Yep. Continue some more trade discussion here in the future as well. These are all of our favorite things. So you could follow us at Sleeper Wire Show on Twitter, at Iowa in the NFL on Twitter, at Clairvoyance FF on Twitter.
Thank you, man. I was like, I hope the listeners no, it's not who is the prophet, who's the prophet. I was like, it should be we should clarify HUS, the prophet. Want him to find my man because he's worth a follow, that's for sure.
Find me at Who's the Prophet on Twitter and Prophet Who's on Sleeper, pushing notifications. We also got the Sunday Blitz, we got the mail sack, we got amazing articles, Henry's one of them, he's one of our amazing writers. So much content out there for you guys, and it's free. You can, if you care, if you enjoy any of this stuff, definitely go out there and chuck a couple dollars to our Patreon. We're offering you this stuff for free, so we're not really giving you perks, but if you just appreciate it, we appreciate you doing so. That way we can continue kind of doing these things, and we can offer you even more content, better visuals, better everything, better cameras, better microphones for the whole team. We all can't be Iowa here with the bad boy microphone.
Well, we're out here doing it for you listeners here, just like we're doing it for you Twitter folk with all the articles coming out from Sleeper Wire. So follow Sleeper Wire Show for all that too. Until then, thank you for hanging with us. You want to say peace out there, Henry? You always say peace out.
Yeah, peace out.
I'll fix that.